Okay, let's dive in. We're looking today at something pretty fascinating, I think. It's uh, educational material, sure, but structured in a really specific, almost surprising way.
Yeah, it's this blend, isn't it? On one hand, you've got very practical nuts and bolts language learning.
Right, like grammar, vocabulary.
Exactly. But running right alongside that, there's this whole other track. It's about motivation, commitment, specifically rooted in faith principles.
And we're not just talking about general ideas. We've got the actual lesson plan, well, the slide deck, for Lesson 10 on daily routines from this program called English Connect.
Which gives us this incredible behind-the-scenes look. The source is ec1-10-10slides.pdf, and it's provided by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so we can see exactly how they structure things, minute by minute, activity by
It's
activity.
like the architectural blueprint for the lesson.
Precisely. And our mission here, for you listening, is to really unpack that blueprint. We want to pull out the concrete language teaching, what they're teaching,
The verbs, the sentence patterns.
all that. But then, maybe more interestingly, analyze the why. Why structure it this way? What's the thinking behind weaving in these motivational, faith-based elements so tightly?
So basically, we're mapping out how they teach English, and just as importantly, how they try to keep students motivated to learn it. All right, let's get into the structure itself. Lesson 10, daily routines. But it's part of a bigger unit, right?
Yeah, the unit's called Talking About My Day. And the goals for this whole unit are, well, they're pretty ambitious. It's not just one thing.
Okay, like what?
Well, linguistically, they want students to be able to do four main things by the end of the unit. First, describe their own daily routine.
Makes sense?
Second, describe what they're doing right now, so present continuous tense. Third, use days of the week and times accurately when talking about their day.
Okay, getting more specific.
And fourth, kind of interestingly, also describe the weather. So quite a range of practical conversational skills there.
That is a lot to cover. But wasn't there something else? Something different?
Ah, yes. The fifth objective, it's listed right there with the language goals, but it's not linguistic. It's an application objective. Apply principles of learning by study and by faith.
Wow. Okay, so right from the outset, in the core objectives, they're mixing language skills with this principle of faith-based learning.
Absolutely. It signals immediately that this isn't just about grammar drills. Success is defined in part by how you approach the learning, using both study and faith.
So let's zero in on Lesson 10 itself, daily routines. Does it try to tackle all those unit objectives at once?
No. And that's good pedagogy. It focuses right down. The single objective for this specific lesson is, I will learn to talk about someone's daily routine.
Ah, okay. Someone else's, not just my own.
Exactly. And any language teacher hearing that objective immediately knows what the main technical challenge is going to be.
What's that?
That third person singular's as. He wakes up, she brushes her teeth. It's a classic difficulty for learners whose first language doesn't work that way.
Right. So the lesson is built around mastering that specific point.
It seems like it. But, and this is crucial, you don't jump straight into grammar. The lesson flow is very clearly mandated in the slides.
How does it start?
After the welcome, there's an opening prayer, and then immediately after that, a discussion of the principle of learning.
Okay, and how long is dedicated to that discussion?
This is the part that really stands out. The slides allocate 20 to 30 minutes for it.
Wait, 20 to 30 minutes? Just for discussing this
Okay.
principle, before you even start talking about daily routines.
Exactly. Think about that. In a typical hour-long language class, spending half the time on something that isn't directly grammar or vocabulary practice, that's a huge investment.
That's massive. Most classes would use that time for, I don't know, pronunciation or explaining a grammar point.
Right. It tells you volumes about their philosophy. They clearly believe that establishing the why, the motivation, the mindset, the spiritual context is absolutely critical. Maybe even more critical than drilling the verb forms right away.
It's like they're saying, look, language learning is hard. It takes ages. The biggest hurdle isn't the grammar, it's sticking with it.
I think that's exactly the calculation. Build the motivational foundation first, make the learning feel purposeful, then tackle the tricky grammar. It's about persistence.
So they're front-loading the motivation to try and maybe reduce dropout rates later on.
That would seem to be the strategy, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Link the effort required for English to something much bigger and more meaningful for the learner.
Okay, so we need to dig into this principle of learning then. What exactly are they discussing for that whole 20, 30 minutes?
The core principle for this lesson is titled, quite directly, You Are a Child of God.
Right. That sets a pretty high bar.
It does. The key statement, the sort of mantra for the lesson is, I am a child of God with eternal potential and purpose.
Eternal potential and purpose.
Mm.
That's a lot to connect to learning vocabulary about waking up and brushing your teeth. How do they make that connection feel real?
Well, they don't just state the principle. They use a story, a biblical narrative, to make it relatable. Specifically, the story of Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Okay, how does that fit in?
The material points out that Mary was asked to do something incredibly daunting, become the mother of the Savior, and it suggests perhaps she felt overwhelmed.
I see. So they're drawing a parallel between Mary's huge, maybe overwhelming task and the student's task of learning English, which might also feel overwhelming or impossible at times.
Precisely. It taps into that universal feeling of facing something difficult. You, the student, struggling with verb tenses, might feel a bit like Mary facing this enormous responsibility. It validates the feeling of difficulty.
And then what's the punchline?
The punchline is the promise, drawn directly from the Bible, Luke 1:37. For with God nothing shall be impossible.
So the message is, yes, this feels hard, maybe impossible, just like Mary's situation might have felt, but with God's help, impossibility vanishes.
Exactly. It reframes the struggle. Difficulty isn't a sign you're failing or not smart enough. It's an opportunity to exercise faith and rely on that divine help to overcome something that seems impossible.
And does it stay purely theological, or do they connect it back to the practical reasons for learning English?
Oh, they connect it very directly. The slides explicitly mention practical, real-world goals. Things like learning English to get an education or provide for your family.
Okay, so linking the divine potential to very concrete life needs.
Yes. And then the reassurance comes. Remember that with God, nothing shall be impossible. With God, you can learn English.
It's tying the everyday effort, the homework, the practice directly to both their practical goals and this bigger sense of purpose and potential. It's quite a motivational loop they're creating.
It really is. It aims to transform potential extrinsic motivation, like getting a better job, into something more intrinsic, fulfilling a purpose, acting in faith.
But it's not just about passively believing this, is it? There's an action component.
Definitely. The 20-30-minute discussion isn't just a lecture. It involves active participation through discussion prompts. They want the students to think critically and commit personally.
What kind of questions are they asking?
They're quite pointed, actually. Designed to make the student reflect and choose. First, what do you feel God wants you to do?
Linking personal direction to the learning effort.
And second, when God invites you to do things that you think are impossible, how can you choose to act in faith?
Emphasis on the choice there. So it's about deciding to act, deciding to put in the effort, even when it feels impossible.
That seems to be the core message. You internalize this belief in your potential, you connect it to God's help, and then you choose to act on it through diligent study. That substantial time block is essentially building the willpower engine before they even introduce the first verb pattern.
It's like a commitment ceremony before the hard work begins. You're not just signing up for a language class. You're committing to act in faith towards a goal that's framed as part of your divine purpose.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It reframes the subsequent effort. Failing to practice isn't just skipping homework. It's potentially falling short on a faith-based commitment.
Okay, so the motivational stage is set. Deeply set, it seems. Now, how do they transition into the actual language mechanics, the what of talking about daily routines?
Right, after that deep dive into the why, they pivot to activity 1. Practice the patterns. This gets a solid 15 to 20 minutes.
And how does that start? Straight into sentences?
No, first things first, vocabulary. Students work with a partner to review a very specific list. It starts simply with nouns: morning, afternoon, evening, basic time frames.
Makes sense. And then the verbs.
The verb list is extensive and I think really cleverly presented. It covers a whole typical day, lots of actions. But the key is how they list them.
How so?
They present each verb in 2 forms, the base form and the third-person singular form.
So not just wake up, but wake up, wakes up.
Exactly. Take a shower, takes a shower, brush my teeth, brushes teeth, shaves, gets ready, do my hair, does her hair, all the way through to go to bed, goes to bed.
So even before they start practicing sentences, they're seeing that crucial third person's form right next to the base form.
Precisely. It's priming. They're planting the seed for that main grammatical challenge of the lesson remembering to add the is when talking about he, she, or it. It's proactive teaching.
That's smart, especially since, as you said, that's a common error point.
Very common. So after drilling the vocabulary with a partner, they move into structured practice patterns. This is where they start building actual sentences, but in a very controlled way. Scaffolding.
Okay, what's the first pattern like?
Pattern 1 is quick, just 3 to 5 minutes. It's designed for confidence building. Super simple format. Question. Do you verb in the noun? Answer. Yes, I verb in the noun.
So, like, do you exercise in the morning? Yes, I exercise in the morning.
Exactly. Just confirming simple actions using I and you. Get some talking, practicing the basic structure using the vocabulary. Easy wins.
And then pattern 2, also short.
Also just 3 to 5 minutes. But it adds a layer of complexity. It introduces sequencing using the word before.
Okay, how does that work?
The format is, question, what do you do before you verb? Answer, before I verb, I verb.
Example.
What do you do before you go to work? Before I go to work, I make breakfast.
Got it. So now they're connecting two actions logically in time. A bit more thinking involved.
A little bit more cognitive load, yes. Moving from single facts to relationships between actions.
So after these quick pattern drills, what's next?
Activity 2, which gets a bit longer, 10 to 15 minutes. It's called Create Your Own Sentences. Here, they often use pictures as prompts and start having slightly more extended sequential conversations.
And does this introduce new structures?
Yes. Crucially, the example provided in the slides introduces the word after, which builds on the before pattern.
Ah, showing the other side of sequencing.
Right. The example conversation goes like this. Speaker A. Do you brush your teeth in the morning? That's like pattern 1. Speaker B. Yes, I brush my teeth in the morning.
Simple confirmation.
Then Speaker A asks, what do you do after you brush your teeth? And Speaker B replies, after I brush my teeth, I get dressed.
I see. So they're practicing both confirming facts and then sequencing them using both before and after, building conversational flow.
Exactly. It's a very controlled progression. But notice, up to this point, it's all still focused on I and you. They haven't really tackled the main lesson objective yet, talking about someone else.
Right. That third person's ends hasn't been explicitly practiced in conversation yet. Where does that happen?
That's the focus of the final practice activity, Activity 3. Create your own conversations. This is the longest practice block, 15 to 20 minutes, and it's designed to hit that lesson objective hard.
How is it structured?
It's split into 2 parts to make sure everyone gets plenty of speaking time and nails the transition. Part 1 is kind of fun. A celebrity interview.
A celebrity interview.
Yeah, partner A is the interviewer, partner B is the celebrity. The instruction is to say as much as you can. This lets them practice fluency, recycle the IU patterns, and importantly, practice negative answers too, like A, do you make your bed in the morning? B, no, I don't make my bed in the morning.
Okay, so building confidence and fluency with known structures before the final hurdle.
Exactly. And then comes part 2, family routines. This is where the rubber meets the road for the lesson objective.
How does this part work?
The instruction is clear. Choose 3 family members, then talk about their daily routine.
Oh, so now they have to use the third person, he, she.
They have no choice.
Oh.
This forces them to practice using those third-person singular verb forms they saw in the vocabulary list. My brother wakes up. My mother makes breakfast.
And the example in the slides really hammers this home, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. A, what does your sister do before she goes to work? B, before she goes to work, she does her hair. Notice all those third-person verbs. Does, goes, does.
A perfect practice for the target structure.
And they don't just do it once. The instruction explicitly says, switch partners and practice again.
Ensuring repetition.
Maximum repetition of the trickiest point. Both partners get to practice asking and answering using those third-person forms. It's a really well-designed sequence to build up to and then consolidate that specific grammatical challenge.
Okay, so after all that intensive practice, especially in the third person, how does the lesson wrap up? Is there like a quiz?
Interestingly, no traditional quiz. The final segment, about 5 to 10 minutes, is focused on evaluation and commitment. And it brings those 2 tracks, the language learning and the faith principle, back together again.
How does the evaluation work?
First, there's a quick self-check on the linguistic goals. Students basically assess themselves, can I do this now? The specific prompts are, I can see what I do, I can see what someone else thinks, and I can ask what someone does.
So directly checking if they feel they met the lesson's objectives?
Yes, that's the performance check. But then, immediately after, comes a different kind of self-evaluation. This one is all about effort.
Effort, not accuracy.
Effort and discipline. Students rate themselves using a simple scale: minimal effort, moderate effort, or significant effort.
Okay, and what areas are they evaluating their effort in?
This is where the program's philosophy really shines through. There are 4 areas. 1. Study the principle of learning. 2. Memorize vocabulary. 3. Practice the patterns. And 4. Practice daily.
Wow. So the effort they put into studying the principle, that motivational faith-based part, is evaluated right alongside memorizing words and practicing grammar. They're given equal weight.
Exactly. It reinforces that core idea. Success comes from diligent effort in both the spiritual motivational preparation and the practical language tasks. If you're struggling, the implied question isn't just, did you practice enough? But also, did you engage enough with the principle that motivates the practice?
It frames learning difficulties as potentially a lapse in commitment or faith-based effort rather than just a lack of aptitude.
It certainly seems to position discipline and commitment as the keys. If you put in significant effort across all 4 areas, the underlying assumption is that you will succeed. It creates this sort of holistic accountability.
So after this self-evaluation of both skill and effort, what happens?
The very next step is action-oriented. Students have to set a specific, written goal for the upcoming week or period, and then they share that goal with a partner.
Turning the reflection into a concrete plan.
Yes, making it tangible and creating accountability through sharing. And this goal setting is then links back one more time to the motivational core
How?
through a final quote read aloud. It's from Russell M. Nelson, who was the president of the church, from a 2019 post. The heading is Act in Faith to Study English Daily.
Okay, bringing it back to daily faith-driven action. What's the essence of the quote?
It's a powerful call to self-discovery, actually. It challenges the students to learn for yourselves who you really are. And the way to do that, ask God, or Heavenly Father, how He feels about them and about your mission here on earth.
So learning English is being framed as potentially part of discovering your life's mission. That's quite profound.
It elevates the stakes enormously, doesn't it? And the quote gives specific instructions. Ask with real intent. Record the feelings or impressions you receive. And then this is key follow-through on those impressions with exactness.
Exactness. That sounds like it applies to language learning, too. Paying attention to details, like that third person said.
I think that's precisely the implication. Approaching your English study with the same rigor and precision, exactness, that you would apply to following spiritual guidance. Doing the practice, getting the details right.
And the promised outcome if they do this.
The quote concludes that if they do this, ask, record, act with exactness, their life will never be the same.
That's a huge return on investment for studying English diligently.
It frames the entire endeavor in the highest possible terms. And then finally, the lesson structure even provides guidance for the closing prayer.
Still weaving in language practice right to the very end.
Absolutely. They suggest relevant English vocabulary for the prayer nouns like blessing, teacher, group, families, and verbs like learn, speak, teach, bless, press forward.
Helping them pray in English.
And they even give a simple sentence pattern to get started. We thank thee for our noun. We ask thee to help us verb. It makes participation easier and reinforces basic sentence structure one last time.
And then looking ahead.
The lesson concludes by reminding students of the 4 preparation steps needed before the next lesson. Study the principle, memorize vocabulary, practice the patterns, practice daily. It's a continuous cycle.
Wow. The commitment engine, as you called it, never really stops.
It seems designed to be constantly reinforced. Hashtag tag tag outro.
So, stepping back from the details of Lesson 10, what we've really seen here is this incredibly integrated system, haven't we?
Definitely. It's a curriculum that meticulously blends very specific step-by-step language instruction.
Yeah.
Moving from simple yes-no questions right up to handling that tricky third-person singular.
With this really pervasive, powerful motivational structure built on faith, potential, and purpose.
It's that dual-track approach in action. That huge 20, 30-minute block up front dedicated to the why, to the student's identity as a child of God with potential, isn't just fluff. It's seen as essential groundwork.
Yeah, and then evaluating effort on that principle just as seriously as effort on memorizing vocabulary. It shows they believe the mindset is as crucial as the mechanics.
It seems like a direct attempt to combat the biggest challenge in long-term learning, which is just keeping going. Sustaining motivation when things get tough or progress feels slow. Linking it to personal mission, to faith, gives it staying power.
And we should acknowledge, again, the source here developed by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, copyrighted by Intellectual Reserve, Inc. This isn't just one teacher's idea, it's an institutionally backed, globally applied methodology.
Which makes it a fascinating case study in curriculum design.
Hmm.
And it leads us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
This whole structure suggests that even seemingly mundane tasks, like memorizing lists of verbs or practicing sentence patterns over and over,
The boring bits.
right, the potentially boring bits,
Mm.
are directly connected to achieving something profound, like realizing your eternal potential. So the question is, how does deeply understanding the purpose behind a routine task change how you approach it?
Does it change the level of effort, the attention to detail, that exactness the quote mentioned?
Maybe think about some small, maybe slightly tedious task you have on your plate today. Could be work stuff, could be chores, anything.
Like clearing out the inbox.
Exactly. What if you decided to tackle that task today, not just to get it done, but with the same focus, the same commitment to exactness, as if it were a vital step towards your biggest goals or your highest potential? What seemingly small task could you approach with a completely new level of intensity and focus today?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this depth dive.